One of my earlier videos are of my modified bead roller. I wanted to make this updated video and actually show it in action. So in case you haven't checked out my other very short video, I run through the modifications and what I use to power it. This was a hand crank Chinese made eBay bead roller, pretty much the same as you would get from machinery shops around the world. The first thing I did was to strengthen the body of it to reduce the flex, as even though this is a 1/2 inch plate, it's still deflected. I bent and welded some heavy duty flat bar to the body, and this had stiffened it up sufficiently. I did cut a slot so I could move the top axle back and forth, but to be honest, I haven't had to use that and don't know if I ever will, but it's there in case I want to do something unusual. To power it, I used a windscreen wiper motor from the wreckers. I attached an old single row pulley from a Holden alternator, and that attaches to a pulley and belt off an old junk air compressor. Having it set up with the big pulley wheel and small pulley at the motor, it stepped down the speed and allowed me to get sufficient torque out of the unit. The threaded rod system built into the stand is my way of putting tension on the belt. Screw the bolt down and the motor gets forced down, which tightens the belt. The beauty about using a windscreen wiper motor is that by switching the connections, you can change to a different speed or a different direction. I machined an interference fit bushing for the compressor pulley so it can be attached to an extension rod which is screwed into the end of the shaft. The pulley needs to spin clockwise so it doesn't unwind itself from the shaft. To power the motor, I needed to convert 240 volts to 12 volt. So I used an old Dell server power supply. This was cheap and cost me $10 on eBay. Being a computer power supply, they rely on a switch to turn them on. So you need to install a jumper cable, so once you turn the power on at the wall, the power supply stays on. The foot pedal was an old sewing machine pedal. Nothing special, it's the only one I could find cheap. It acts as an on and off switch, but it works great for my use. I tapped and threaded the top shaft block so I could screw in a bolt and attach a compression spring. This is to lift the top shaft automatically instead of unwinding the tension and pushing the shaft up manually. This is a recent improvement, and now that I'm using this machine more, it makes life so much easier. I recycled the old crank handle and made it the new tension unit for the top shaft. Of course, I made a stand out of square tubing, attached a bead roller to it and painted it with hammer tone. The stock dies that come with the machine are okay, but I always had my eyes on the forming die set with the polyurethane wheel. I bought this set, which to me looks near on identical to the Eastwood set, but a fraction of the price. I'll put a link in the description. This set comes with a tipping die to turn flanges, 1/2 inch and 3/8 inch bead or tipping dies, round over die, and joggle or offset dies. One thing I found though is the lower polyurethane wheel slips off when turning your workpiece, so I just got a bolt and washer and it stays put. To show the bead roller in action, I'm using a bit of cold rolled mild steel at 1mm thick. First thing I'm going to do with it is tip a straight flange. This does take a couple of goes, adding more tension each time. I like to make the first run more of a pinch or score of the workpiece, then the following attempt start adding pressure to get it to the angle I need. The joggle or offset dies I really like. They can serve a few different purposes, but I like how they give a sort of embossed look. And lastly, I'll lay down a fat bead. I cranked this probably a little bit too much and the bead roller started to slip a bit, but to overcome that I would just gradually increase the tension with each pass. Well, I hope this updated video of my modified bead roller has been useful, and if you'd like to see more of what I get up to in the shed, consider subscribing to my channel. Cheers mate!